Hello, I'm Sarkis, and this is Hookah Unlimited. Today, we're going to be telling you everything you need to know about the Kaloud Samsaris Vitria. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell notification so that you can make sure to know every time a new video is launched. Before we can get into understanding the Kaloud Samsaris Vitria 2, we need to understand the Kaloud Samsaris and how it originated. See, back then when they first launched, there was a competitor that was doing pretty good on the market, the Apple on Top bowl. At the time, Apple on Top's bowl was marketed as the unbreakable bowl. Buy it, never replace it because it will never break on you. Kaloud noticed that, and Kaloud noticed a lot of people liked the idea of an unbreakable bowl, especially because back then a lot of people would break their bowls. And they came up with a solution that was very different from the way Apple on Top executed their bowl. They decided to make a completely silicone bowl. In fact, it was the very first silicone bowl on the market. And not only that, it was specifically designed to work with a legendary heat management device system called the Kaloud Lotus. I'm sure a lot of you guys know about that one. So when they created it, they decided, we're gonna make it out of silicone and it's never gonna break. And lo and behold, the moment it launched, the entire enthusiast community was going crazy over, wow, a silicone bowl, it's never gonna break, and everybody bought it. I don't know anybody that didn't buy it back then in the context of the Hookah Unlimited, Hookah Unbiased, Hookah Enthusiasts, and all the groups that existed in all the communities on Reddit, everything, everybody was buying the Samsaris. And they accomplished their mission just fine. That bowl was literally impossible to break. But there was another issue, and that issue was a lot of people started reporting within a week, 2 weeks, a month of buying and using their Samsaris, the bowl started deteriorating. And that was a hell of a time for Kaloud. It was a hell of a time to be a part of the enthusiast community online because everyone was buzzing about the fact that the Samsaris deteriorates. The Samsaris deteriorates. So as soon as that batch was done, Kaloud went back to the drawing boards and decided, we're gonna make a truly great bowl based on the design of the original Samsaris, which people love the shape, the aesthetic of it, and they created the Vitria. Now, it didn't take the first attempt to execute a decent product that people loved. They needed a V2 because the very first Samsaris Vitria had an issue with fitting the Lotus HMD into it. It wasn't a tight fit like we were used to with the original Samsaris. So this is the Vitria 2. The packaging is wonderful, I'm sure you guys can tell. It's the most gorgeous packaging I've ever seen a bowl company make. It's got a nice matte, silky smooth finish with gold accents, and when you open up the top of it, you see this beautiful display of the top of the bowl encased in the box that it comes with matte gold trim, a cute little message from Kaloud themselves, and I'm gonna go ahead and read this right now. The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. And this is a quote from one of my favorite people in history, Galileo Galilei. Once you take that little notice off the bowl, you see the beautiful shape of the Samsaris Vitria bowl. These curved, kind of turbine-looking accents were a key point of the original Samsaris, which Kaloud made sure to re-include into this design. Another thing you'd notice immediately is it is a lipped bowl specifically meant to cater and hold the Kaloud Lotus in place. And even with the newest iterations of the Kaloud Lotus, the Kaloud Lotus L Plus and the Kaloud Lotus 2, when you take the bowl out of the box, that's basically all that's left for you to have. You get this beautiful finish, this matte silicone, soft touch type of silicone, and you get a glass bowl insert. And that, my friends, was the answer to the community. You could put it out, you could clean it separately, and when you're done, you could pack it back in. Now, people have come up with a lot of really creative ways to utilize this insert function. A lot of people, what they do is, you will see people, maybe some lounges, maybe some services, where they will set up, or at home house parties, they will set up the bowl body on the hookah ready to go, and then they'll just go ahead and pack the inserts separately because it's smaller and easier to carry around, and they just go and pop each one of them back into it right on the hookah and have it ready to go that way. The shape, the styling is beautiful. It's not just accents. There is a specific intended purpose. How well that works is up to debate, and I'm not exactly going to get into that because the truth is I haven't noticed anything that these little swirls do that gives the Vitria an advantage over a regular shaped funnel bowl, although this is also a funnel bowl. But one of the biggest issues with this bowl was that Kaloud decided to use glass, and the glass that they use is a Chinese borosilicate type of glass. It's nice and crystal clear. It's not a bad quality, and it's got some weight to it. It's nice and thick, and the reason they made it thick because they knew that glass has a tendency to spike in heat and develop heat spots, which aren't the best thing for your hookah session. And that's exactly the problem with this bowl. Another issue was, just like the original mission of the Samsaris was to make an unbreakable bowl, answer to the apple on top. With this iteration, with this version, they made a bowl that isn't unbreakable. In fact, if you're washing the glass insert in a sink, in a ceramic sink or a stainless sink that everybody has at their house, it might slip, and I've seen many photos of people in the community. It's soapy, it slips out of the hands, and the moment it hits the ceramic sink, it shatters in half. So Kaloud decided, you know what, we're going to go back to our original mission, and we're going to make something that will not break and will not deteriorate. And they took a page out of the Apple on Top book and decided to make a series of bowls available in multiple colors. The Nubis and the Naris and some other interesting names that display the colors. And what this series of Vitria bowls are, they're fully aluminum and they're beautiful to look at. And that was the answer to everybody that wanted a truly unbreakable bowl from Kaloud, because everybody loves their styling and aesthetic, and that's one of the biggest and best things about the way Kaloud designs their products. I don't think anyone in the world can argue that the aesthetics are not some of the best in the world. Following the same exact example as the original Vitria, the aluminum series features a snap-in-place insert, except it's fully aluminum. The only problem with aluminum and the design of this particular bowl is that because of the silicone, it locks it in real well, and the way it's designed, it fits the Lotus perfectly. What that does is, as the Lotus is heating up from your charcoal, and as the Lotus heats up the shisha, the bowl also gets heated up because it's exposed directly to the Lotus that's sitting on top. And what that does is superheats the internal bowl temperature to heights that are not comfortable to smoke at. Now remember guys, if you look at some of my older videos from the Hookah Unbiased TV, I've made it clear that the optimal internal bowl temperature is anywhere between 220 and 240 degrees Fahrenheit. With aluminum bowls, you see on the upwards of 400, 500, 600 degrees, essentially charring your bowl every time. Now some people claim they have decent sessions with this aluminum series of Kaloud Vitria bowls. But then when you start asking them, okay, so how long does it last? How long does the flavor preserve? They don't really want to answer, because the truth is, within an hour, it'll start charring your bowl. The flavor will start turning, but because it's aluminum and gets heated up at an exponential rate compared to clay, you will get clouds the first hour, of course. Moving on with the adventures of Kaloud and their bowls, one thing Kaloud did more recently was release their third version, or rather the fourth version of the Samsaris family, which was their lapis bowl, and it's a ceramic bowl as advertised on their website. I sadly don't have access to that bowl right now, but I will in the future. I have tested it previously, and one thing you could say about Kaloud is they like to listen, and listening to people's complaints about the aluminum bowl being too hot and the glass bowl being too spotty with the heat spots and the heat spikes, they decided to go and back to the drawing board and create a ceramic option for those who like clay bowls. The only problem is, of course, that the ceramic they chose to use is a Chinese-made concoction, mostly porcelain, which, as we discussed in the bowl material types video, which you could check out right there, it's again not the most ideal material for a bowl. But due to Kaloud's aesthetic design, their execution of packaging, and the overall look of their products, people seem to love them a lot, and I understand why. Now let's get to the actual rating of this bowl. Now we're going to be rating bowls in a slightly different way compared to hookahs, as there's different standards which we judge a bowl versus a whole hookah. But we're going to be going over, flow rate, which is related to the draw of how the bowl affects the draw of the hookah all around, and we're going to be going over usability and functionality, if there is any. The Kaloud Samsaris bowls, line of bowls, all of them are actually a very high flow bowl. Not because the spire is very wide, it's moderate, it's on the narrower side of things, but because the spire is relatively low compared to where the Lotus actually sits on top of it, allowing a lot of airflow in between, like between where the spire ends and where the Lotus ends. So that increases overall flow rate. The spire is not too close to the actual place where the air is going and the smoke is being generated. That allows for a very high flow bowl. That's another thing a lot of people like about it. In that regard, I give the Samsaris regarding flow rate a solid 8 out of 10. Regarding usability, it is definitely a plus that you could take apart the top and use it in multiple ways that we discussed previously. But because of the way it's shaped and the way that it is designed and the spire being low, which conversely affects the way you can pack the bowl. Because the spire is low, you're forced to either pack a bowl in a slanted angle or much lower at an underpack compared to the rim of the bowl, compared to where the Lotus is sitting down. Now the Lotus actually is designed for with the mindset of the bumps being inserted into the tobacco that you're going to be smoking, and the bumps allow even distribution and penetration of heat into the shisha that you're going to be smoking, which increases overall burn rate and evenly burning your tobacco, which conversely increases flavor and cloud output. But because you're limited to how high you could pack the bowl without any tobacco falling through the spire, it's a bit of a limitation and keeps you from being able to experiment and push the given tobacco that you're going to be smoking to its full limits. So given that, I give that a 6.5 out of 10. And finally, the overall performance factor of these bowls is also a big matter at hand regarding the rating of them. And a performance factor is what's defined as the amount of tobacco a bowl takes versus how long an average session is given the type of tobacco. Now we're going to be using a standard measure, something like a beginner level blonde leaf. Now something like Chaos Tobacco is capable of 2 hours to 2 hour 15 minutes with a Lotus setup at the optimal pack method at the density level in an average clay bowl, and like a good, in a good clay, hand spun clay funnel bowl. But in one of these guys, it's more like an hour and a half. In the aluminum bowl, it's an hour, maybe an hour 15 before the flavor really starts turning. That's not a good ratio, and that's not a good standard of expectation, especially because this bowl is rather large. If you can't tell, it's definitely 3 inches wide, so it takes the Lotus, but it's also quite deep. All of them follow the same general size parameters, and it takes a good nearly 40-45 grams out of cement pack, and it takes around 25 grams out of fluff pack. So considering how much tobacco you actually use versus what kind of session you're actually experiencing, I'm going to give that, the performance factor, a 5 out of 10. Alright guys, if you like what you see and you want to support my channel and make sure that I'm continuing to make a lot of videos for you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Make sure to turn on that notification so you don't miss any of my videos. And other than that, catch me on Hookah Unlimited, the Facebook group, and Hookah_Unlimited for the Instagram. And other than that, hit me up, join one of my live videos and live AMAs, and I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one. Deuces.
Once again, tip, you're on point five. Once again, tip, you're on point five. Once again, tip.